Welcome to the Beaver Brook Association YouTube series. Please hit subscribe now to stay up to date with the videos we produce. Hello, my name is Kim and this is Pete. We'd like to welcome you to the Old City Trail in Hollis, New Hampshire. This area is maintained by Beaver Brook Association. Beaver Brook Association is a nature and environmental center which has about 2,100 acres and about 35 miles of trails. Today we're going to walk the Old City Trail. It's an interesting and highly diverse nature area. It's also of very high historical significance to Hollis. This actually used to be a main road through Hollis from about the Revolutionary War period to about the late 1800s. Our starting point today is Rocky Pond Road, which is right over there, and there's a nice pullout. You can just park there and get started. Peter, you ready to start our walk?
Yep, let's get going.
Good. So, Pete, this is a really beautiful stone foundation, and I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. This is the site of the Wooster Brothers Mill. This foundation is owned by the town of Hollis and maintained by Beaver Brook Association. This was a sawmill and it was used for making lumber for houses and barns, staves for the barrel produced at their cooperage uptown, and material for the Wooster Brothers furniture operation in Cambridge, Mass. Now in 1916 there was an explosion which destroyed the mill and left 75 people without jobs, a major event here in town. There was a spillway from the mill pond that's up above here that powered a 20-foot water wheel, which in turn powered the sawmill. In the intervening years, the water has been diverted from the spillway by beaver activity, and now it's a nice waterfall over here to my left. The building that stood here was larger than one would think from the size of the foundation. When the explosion happened, bricks were thrown at least 200 yards from here, and you can still find the bricks in the ground nearby.
Looking at this Beaver Brook Association trail map, we can envision and imagine where the important sites were back in the 1800s. So much has changed since then.
This Old City Road went from here to the south, and then alongside of the Rocky Pond Brook, through the Old City, across our wildlife pond, and on to Proctor Hill, then on to the Schoen Farm, and then on to West Hollis where there was another mill. This was an important logging road and a good place for the early settlers. There was very nice meadow grass that grew around here, and that meant that the land did not need to be cleared, saving a lot of work. The grass was also critical to raising their livestock. There are a lot of ponds here at Beaver Brook Association, and many were created by beaver. The Merganser Pond is on the left. There's a Beaver Lodge here, and it's made of tree sections, sticks, and mud. The beaver live here all year long. Beaver are mostly active at night, and that's when they build their lodges and dams. They store food for winter in the mud under the ice. They don't actually hibernate, and they're active all winter long. You may see some other wildlife here, such as the Merganser ducks and the wood ducks, both of which are beautiful. Bluebirds as well.
I love the headdress of the Merganser. It's so different than many other ducks. The Hatfield Trail is off to the left here. Doesn't it take you to the old rattlesnake den, Pete?
Yes, but don't worry, the rattlesnakes aren't here anymore. We are now going through a very special part of the Beaver Brook Association land. This is the 75 acres that Deborah Wooster Hildreth gave to the Beaver Brook Association. We call it the Wooster Land.
There are a lot of rock outcrops along this trail and in this area. They're interesting to look at and to see how the land changes from very flat areas to significant rocky outcrops.
Now this rocky outcrop is interesting, and it's the potential home to lots of different animals. There used to be a wildcat den near here.
I remember Jeff Smith telling me when I was a little kid that porcupines live in there.
That's very possible, so be careful when you're exploring. I don't think you'd want to run into the backside of a porcupine.
Jeff Smith told me that we may be lucky enough to find a porcupine quill too. He suggested to use it as jewelry.
Yep, that sounds like Jeff. The tracks of the porcupine are very distinctive. You may see the tracks go into a small hole in the rocks, which may be their den, or you may see small pieces of branches, such as this black birch that's here on the ground around where the porcupines are. If you find a hole in the rocks where they live, you'll likely see their scat, which is also very distinctive. And there may be very large piles of scat.
The Old City Trail has a lot of mountain laurel on it. It's an evergreen, so it's green and dense all year long, making for good habitat.
It's one of those plants that can take over an area, a little invasive, but it is beautiful in the spring with all the white flowers.
What do you think lives in this old tree? Is it home to some little animal or bird?
Well, we'd need to take a closer look to see what's going on here. This is a white pine tree, and it's decomposing from the inside out as softwoods do. It could be a potential home for as many as 75 different species of wildlife, all the way from bees to bear. It's clear that this particular tree died from a lightning strike, as indicated by the missing long strip of bark on the backside of the tree.
It's really fun and amazing what we can learn from even an old dead tree.
The pileated woodpecker lives around here. They would likely eat the ants and the other bugs that infest the dead or dying trees.
You know, they're such a pretty bird. I just love seeing them, and they're surprisingly large too.
Here's a woodpecker hole that was recently started, and is likely made by a pileated woodpecker as indicated by the shape of the hole.
Pete, is this an old cellar hole?
Yes, the stone structure that you see in this particular cellar hole is probably the superstructure that supported the hearth and the chimney. Some have said that there may be as many as 6 cellar holes in this vicinity. Cellar holes are the exposed cellar area where a house has once proudly stood. Sometimes houses had a foundation of stone, but not always. People use these cellars mostly to store vegetables and other foods for the winter. This is the only one with a stone foundation that I know of in this area.
We are now at the wildlife pond, which is a beautiful spot in all seasons. Here is just a quick look, but we'll save this tour of this pond for another day.
Yep, that's a whole video in itself, that's for sure.
Let's walk back to the mill site now, Pete.
Thanks, Pete. This was a really nice walk down the Old City Trail.
Sure was.
Pete and I hope you'll come out and explore Beaver Brook Association for yourself, see some of its history, the animals, the birds, and maybe you'll even be lucky enough to find a porcupine. We've just shown you some of the highlights, and there's much more to learn. In fact, there's a storyboard on the Wooster Mill historical site where you can learn all the details about that explosion and the history of the site. Your feedback is really important to us. Please let us know if this video is helpful to you, or what we can do to improve our videos, and tell us more about what you'd like to learn about Beaver Brook Association. Please hit subscribe so you'll know when a new video comes out, and you can be kept up to date with these videos. Thank you.
Please provide us your feedback. Your feedback is very, very helpful to us. Visit our website and Facebook pages to keep up to date with all the activities that are going on at Beaver Brook Association. Please hit Donate Now to help us achieve our mission, which is land conservation and stewardship and environmental education. Thank you.